How's it going, guys? My name is Safwan, and in this video I'm going to be showing you guys how to set up a GitHub integration in your Appwrite instance. Now keep in mind that the latest version as of this recording is 1.4.2, so make sure you're on that version because there were a few issues with 1.4.0 and 1.4.1 that were fixed in the 1.4.2 release. So make sure first of all that you're on 1.4.2 and make sure you have an Appwrite instance set up and ready. Like as you can see, I haven't touched anything. All I've done is assigned a domain, and that's about it. Just some reverse proxy stuff for my instance, but that's about it. So if you look over here, 51 minutes ago and 6 minutes ago, I haven't done anything because yeah, there's nothing I've done in this Appwrite instance. It's a fresh, clean install. Nothing else. Now, before we jump into the actual configuration, I'm gonna have this link in the description. It's the actual Appwrite documentation for configuring the GitHub application for Appwrite. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna follow through this documentation to make sure that we do everything right. All right. So the first thing you're gonna do is head on over to this link. I'll have it in the description. Make sure you have a project set up and ready on your Appwrite instance. Okay, we have our project ready, and as you can see, it is completely fresh, nothing at all. All right. The next thing you're gonna do is go to your GitHub settings. Now the way to do that is you click on your profile picture over here, you head to settings, then you go to developer settings, and it'll show you this GitHub app section. Now you need to make a GitHub application for your Appwrite instance to make sure there's a proper communication channel between Appwrite and your GitHub repos. Once you are on the screen on GitHub, click on new GitHub app or just create a new GitHub app, whatever. GitHub app name. The first thing I'm gonna say is you need to make sure that there are no spaces in this GitHub app name because we will be needing this app name as an environment variable. So make sure that there are no spaces, and the description we can leave it as is. I'm gonna add the homepage URL as the URL of my Appwrite instance. The next thing, all right, let's come over here. The first thing we see over here is the callback URL. GitHub will use callback URLs to redirect users back to Appwrite. So you can see there's two URLs over here which we need to add. Now what we're gonna do is copy the first one and paste it over here. And we're gonna change this to do.remedyway.om. Now keep in mind that this obviously has to be your own host name, and if your instance is on localhost, then you can use something like ngrok or tunnelmole, which I'll have linked in the description, to expose a port on your local machine to the internet, and you can use that host name over here instead. All right, so now that we have added the first one, there's also another callback URL that we need to add. Now one thing you need to make sure is that these URLs are added in the same exact order that they appear in the documentation. So as you can see, the first URL is the shorter one, which is using the VCS resource, and then the second URL is the longer one, which uses the account resource. So just make sure you have them set up correctly. And then we have to check the request user authentication during installation box. So request user authentication, check, make sure that's checked. Okay, post installation, check the redirect on update box under post installation. All right, so redirect on update, that's done. GitHub will notify Appwrite about events like new commits using webhooks. Okay, so we need to set up a webhook. So this is the URL scheme or the URL template that we will be using in our GitHub apps webhook URL. So again, just add your host name in there. And now the webhook secret. Now, although this says it's optional, it's recommended that you add something in here. You add a secret, you can generate a secret, or you can just add a random bunch of, I don't know, numbers over here, whatever. But I'm going to keep it simple just for the sake of demonstrations. Keep in mind, I don't recommend keeping something as simple as this for your webhook secret. This is just for the sake of demonstrations. You should never keep your webhook this simple, all right, or your webhook secret, or any secret for that matter, this simple. So the next thing is repository permissions. Configure these permissions under the repository permission dropdown. So if you go down repository permissions, all right. Now I'm gonna speed through this. I'm gonna fast forward the video over here, but just make sure that administration is, for example, I'll show you, administration is set to read and write, and then checks is set to read and write, and just keep following this and make sure each permission is set to the correct access scope. Alright, now that we have set the repository permissions, we can scroll down in the documentation and we have more permissions in the account permission dropdown. So we go to account permissions and you need to give the access of read only to the email address permission. So we go here and read only. Simple as that. Then select these under the subscribe to events dropdown. So pull request and push. So subscribe to events, so this pull request and this push, just to make sure, yes, PR and push. Once you have this ready, what you can do is just scroll down and okay, now these two options. If you plan on using your GitHub application across multiple projects, then it's recommended that, not recommended, it's needed that you set this to any account. Basically, if you set it to only account, then this is a private GitHub application accessible only to you. But if you set it to any account, then anyone can install it. If you want to use this GitHub application for multiple projects in Appwrite, then make sure it's set to any account and click on create GitHub app. All right, registration successful. You must generate a private key, blah, 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 blah. All right, now the first thing we're going to do is, the next thing we're going to do is head into our Appwrite instance or SSH into the actual VM, the machine, whatever the VPS. We're gonna go into the Appwrite directory and we're gonna look for the .env file. Now, keep in mind, this is just a test or a demo instance that I have set up, so you don't need to worry about me exposing my encryption key or anything of that sort. Whatever. Make sure that whatever you're accessing your let's say your console with, your Appwrite console with, make sure you have those domains set up in these app domain target and app domain environment variables. But if you go to the documentation, you can see there's also app domain functions, which is the domain that is used as the base domain, you could say, for your function, if that makes sense. You'll understand what I mean, but basically app domain functions, keep it the same as app domain target, or not app domain target, keep it the same as underscore app underscore domain. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna copy this and add it over here. App domain functions is set to the correct domain. Now, the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, these last 6 environment variables are the ones that are the most important for integrating your GitHub app with your Appwrite instance properly, if that makes sense. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna find app underscore VCS first. We're gonna scroll down and there it is. We have these 6 environment variables, and you can see app VCS GitHub name, private key, app ID, client secret, webhub secret, app name, private key, app, yeah, all of them are there. Scroll up and go to the first one, GitHub app name. The name of your GitHub app is what we need to add over here. So if you are on the screen once you register your app, what you can do is just copy what's after settings/apps, whatever's the last name, just copy that. So Control C or Command C and then paste it in over here. The next thing is the app VCS GitHub private key. Now we're going to leave this to the end because this does require a little bit of manual work. But the next thing we can do is get the GitHub app ID, which is this. So we add that. The next thing we need is the client ID, which is, this. All right. The next thing is the client secret, which we need to generate. So we just click on generate. And make sure to copy it and paste it in over here, because once you refresh the page, you won't be able to see this again. So the next thing is the app VCS GitHub webhook secret. Now, if you remember, or if you just scroll down a little, okay, I already see an issue over here where only one of the callback URLs is here. We'll get back to this. But if you remember, when we added the webhook URL, there was an optional webhook secret that I asked you guys to set up. So just enter that value over here. So you see, I set up a very basic value, but make sure you don't keep it as basic as that. Now that this is done, what we're gonna do is click on save changes because we did generate a client secret. All right. Now, I mentioned I saw an issue where the callback URLs weren't as expected. We need to have 2 callback URLs, as you can see over here, but we have only 1. Now, why did that happen? I am not sure. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna delete this and I'm gonna save it. Okay, it asked me for one now, so it must ask me to enter something right now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add them one by one. So I add the first one and then I save. All right, and then I add the second one and then I'm gonna save again. So if I go here, I can see both of them set up correctly. And I just refresh the page to make sure. Yep, both of them are here. The webhook secret is there. The client secret is there as well. All right, now the one environment variable that we still need to set is the GitHub private key. Now this requires a little bit of manual work. So what we're gonna do is scroll all the way down where you see the private key section. So click on generate a private key. It says it's generating and it downloads a .pem file. Now keep in mind this string is not the secret key that you need to enter in this environment file or this environment variable. This is not what you need. What you need to do is use this. So I'm gonna open up VS Code real quick, then go to my downloads and I'm gonna paste this in. So you see this is the RSA private key that is generated by GitHub for your app. Now, the way that environment variables work is that you can only add a 1-line string or a 1-line variable, if that makes sense, a 1-line value basically. And you can see this is 27 lines long. So the way we're gonna fix this is by adding cursors at the end of each line. So we do this. So if you don't know, if you're on VS Code, you can just press and hold down on the scroll wheel. You can press and hold down and drag your mouse along to add cursors. Okay, so I'm gonna show you again this. Okay, and then you press Command or Control on Windows and left click to add a cursor. All right, once that's done, do \n, which is the escape character for a new line, and then you press delete, not backspace, press delete. All right, now that that's done, you can see it's all in one line. Well, this is in one line. We can get rid of this line and you can see it's all in one line. Now you're gonna enclose this whole private key inside of double quotes. So you add double quotes to the start and the end and you're good to go. So this value right here, the one with double quotes and which is in one single line, you're gonna copy it. So I'm just gonna copy it like this. Then you go back into your environment variable and you paste it in. So if you see begin RSA private key, blah, 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 blah. And if you scroll all the way down, scroll back, then you can see end RSA private key, which is what we needed. Now, once you have this done, you are set up and ready with your environment variables file. So you can exit out of your text editor and make sure it's saved. And once you do that, you do docker compose up D. So this is going to restart the Appwrite containers, whichever ones that need to be restarted. It's going to restart all of them and basically use the new variable. Now that this is done, what we're going to do is head over into a console, refresh it real quick and go into settings. So make sure you are on your project. You're in a project that you want to add the GitHub app to. Click on settings, scroll a little down to the GitHub Git configuration card and click add installation. Click GitHub and then it'll take you to this screen. Now these are the organizations that I have write access to. I'm an admin. So make sure you select whichever one is necessary, but because I'm using this for personal projects, I'm going to use my personal organization, which is my profile. Now, when you come to this screen, make sure you select all repositories and click install and authorize. Once that is done, we scroll down and you can see there's a snack bar. Oh no, there's a toaster that shows the installation is successful. And you can see over here in the Git configuration in your project settings that we have initialized a GitHub installation. Right. So now what we're going to do is head over to the functions tab and click create functions. Something to keep in mind is with the base installation of Appwrite on self-hosted, you don't have all of the runtimes available by default, but you can easily fix that by just opening the environment variable, scrolling a little down and finding the app functions runtimes environment variable. And because I like to use Node, I'm gonna add node 18.0, exit out of it, make sure I save it, and then run docker compose upd again to just restart it. All right, so now that we have restarted it, I'm gonna close out of this, just refresh it once, click create function, and you can see we have Node.js now. All right. So what we're gonna do is, obviously you can see all the repositories over here that use the particular runtime that is supported by Appwrite. So I obviously have a few Node.js runtimes over here, Node.js applications over here. So, but without using anything over here, just a quick start, we're gonna use the Node.js starter template. So starter function, Appwrite, Safwan, Node. Okay, that's what I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna use the Node.js 18 runtime. You can create a custom function ID if you want. I'm gonna auto generate it. Now, I'm gonna keep this as empty. I don't know why it auto filled it, and click on generate API key on completion. So it handles it by itself. I don't need to do anything. The next thing is whether you want to add this template to an already existing repository or create a new repository for the function in itself. Now I'm gonna choose create new repository, click next, and then Git organization. Now because we installed the application or the GitHub application and we connected Appwrite to our personal organization, which is, well, in my case, Safwan YP, that's what's gonna show over here, and we can give it a name. So node Appwrite, starter node Appwrite Safwan, just for the sake of it, and we're gonna keep the repository. Let's make it public and click next. It's gonna do some stuff behind the scenes, and repository successfully created. Now obviously you have other configuration options over here, and you can even view the repo on GitHub, and you can see it exists. So I'm gonna click create. I'm gonna leave this default, obviously. I'm gonna click create. Now once you do this, you can see it has started building automatically. We'll see building. Come on, don't error out. All right, as you see, it took 16 seconds for building it, and you can see it is active. Now if you go back over here, you notice there was nothing in this repository, but if you refresh after we actually created the function, you can see it has all of the things. So we have the src and the main.js file, and yep, that's about it. I hope this tutorial or this short video, I don't think this is a short video, but I hope this video helped you out. If it did, please do just hit the thumbs up. I don't know, it might help me, it might not. And yeah, if you have any questions, make sure to post them in the comments. And if you want me to make a tutorial for something else, please do let me know in the comments, or just hit me up on the Appwrite Discord. I'll have a link to the Appwrite Discord in the description as well. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys again soon.